Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Mike Wood. I am a theatrical lighting designer and educator. If this is your first time with me, welcome. I do this all the time. I've been doing a lot of FileMaker videos recently, but I thought that tonight I would do a Adobe InDesign Magic Sheet video because it had been a couple years since the last one I did. It was actually the very first live stream that I ever did 2 or 3 years ago now. So let's dive right in. So I use Adobe InDesign to create my magic sheets because I really like the way that it allows me to lay out the visual style and the graphics exactly the way I want them to. You can absolutely use your drafting software for this. You can use a spreadsheet. You can use a word processor. But I find that something that is designed to actually lay out graphic templates and stuff like that is a much more powerful tool. It does take a little bit more time, obviously. That's a question I get a lot. But once you get a workflow down, just like any other piece of software, it allows you to create some really beautiful magic sheets that all have a unique visual style to them. And as I flash through some of these, you can see these were all done in InDesign. And of course, there's some here that are a slightly different style, but you kind of get the idea of what it allows you to do. I like to do mine at tabloid size, which is 11 by 17. The reason for that, I like to print it nice and big. For a while there, I was doing them smaller, so this one was smaller, for example, so I could put it on an iPad. But I really like having the magic sheet on a piece of paper. I'll usually laminate it, and having that nice big sheet is nice at the table. So let's jump right in and get started. So I'm using InDesign 2021. There is nothing specific about 2021 in this demo. I've been using the same templates, the same everything for 5 or 6 years now. So whatever version of InDesign you have will work just fine. What you're seeing on your screen right now is actually the magic sheet from the last theatrical show I did a year ago. And what I'll be doing tonight is I'm going to be pulling some of the layout objects from this magic sheet to use in the one that we're making for an actual show. So I'm working on this magic sheet for a production, a concert production that I'm going to Atlanta later this week to film. So it's for an actual show, which is great. And it means I'll actually take a lot of time and really and really do a good job with it. So the first thing I want to do is I'll walk you through the plot here a little bit. The cool part about this show is that for time and budget's sake, we're mostly using the repertory plot that is in the room. So we've got a lot of rep fixtures, and then we're bringing in a small package. You see there's a truss back here with some stuff that is flown, and then these 4 here that are coming in. And we're bringing in our own package to supplement the house gear to save on that time and to save on that budget money. And of course, the other big thing we're doing is doing some ground package. So there's this whole truss structure up there. There'll be some fixtures on the floor that are a mixture of house fixtures and rental fixtures. Some lights over here that wash the fly rail. When it's all said and done, it should look something like this, fingers crossed. Of course, these renderings were all done in Capture, but you get the idea. We've got this big truss structure up here that is really our entire set. There's a band there. You can kind of see there's the horn section has some plexiglass shields built around them, and then some pretty substantial booms on the side here. Again, with the idea being that we want to see them all on camera. So we want to be able to create a lot of color and do a lot of cool things. And then, of course, these 4 squares you see on the truss are actually video panels. So we're using Mbox for that, and we're going to do all kinds of cool content. So that's kind of where we're going. Let's dive back into the InDesign file here for a second. And the first thing I'm going to do to get started is to create a new document. So I'm going to go to File, New Document, or Command-N. I'm going to do my best tonight, as with most of my streams, to use the actual buttons and menu items rather than doing a keyboard shortcut. And I will try to remember, if I do use a keyboard shortcut, to tell you what shortcut I used, because I know that can be really frustrating. So here I am in my new document dialog box, and the first thing I want to do is set up the properties for the actual sizing, the margins, etc., for the document. Of course, you see right away it's in picas. I'm going to switch over to inches. And I'm going to make this 17 wide and 11 high. That's a tabloid size piece of paper. I want to do, let's see, what did I do column wise for this magic sheet? Looks like I had 5 columns there. I'm going to do the same thing again. 3, 4, 5. The column gutter, that is the space between the columns. So it looks like I left a little space in this other magic sheet. To start out here, I'm going to take this all the way down to 0. I just want 5 equally sized columns without any space in between. And then I'm also going to get rid of my margins. I'm going to go all the way to the edge of my page, and I'll deal with, I'll allow my system PDF printer to shrink the page as necessary. So that's really it. 11 by 17, of course, landscape orientation. I have done some in portrait orientation, especially in more, maybe in a thrust space I've done that, but for this purpose, we'll do landscape. I'll click create, and now we've got a blank document here. To zoom in and out, just like with most Adobe products, it's Command plus, Command minus. I'm sure it's Control if you're on a PC. And I will say that any keyboard shortcuts I throw out today are going to be Mac-based because I'm using a Mac. Okay, so I don't know for sure that this needs to be 5 columns. As I start to lay out the magic sheet, I will maybe adjust. But for now, we're going to start with 5. A question just came in. How much does this program cost? So I pay for the Adobe Master Collection, which I believe is about 30 or 40 bucks a month. And for that, I get all the Adobe products, Photoshop, Lightroom. And I extensively use Photoshop, Lightroom, Premiere Pro, and InDesign. Sometimes I'll use Illustrator, so it is worth it for me. I do believe they do standalone subscriptions as well, or you could probably find an old version where you could just download or find the install license without a subscription. Okay, so if we notice back here on our original magic sheet, I've got these little kind of grayed out images of my stage from Gentleman's Guide behind there. So I want to do the exact same thing in this new one. Before I do any text boxes or anything like that, I want to start spacing out a background graphic. So I'm going to come back over here to my drafting program, and let's see, I have a scenic ground plan. Does this show me anything? It does, but I have some grid lines in there. How about scenic layout details? So that's pretty good. It's white. It's got some measurements in there, but what I could do, I'm not going to save this file. I'm going to edit these annotations, just delete all of these. And now I've got like a nice white box or a nice white background here. I could, of course, use a PDF of this if I wanted to. But what I'm going to do is just essentially take a screenshot of this and paste that into InDesign. I want to get it as big as I can while still seeing everything, just so I make sure I have a good quality there. And I've got my keyboard shortcut mapped to Command-Shift-4 for a screenshot. Depending on what yours is, obviously adjust accordingly. But I'm just going to start, let's come a little bit downstage of the plaster line, and I want to be able to see those booms in there, so maybe about right here. Whoops. Try that again. Oh. Try that again, shall we? Try to get it without those little crosshairs. There we go. So I'm going to start down here. And I'm going to drag a box up. And I don't necessarily need this backdrop stuff back here. So maybe I bring it down just enough so I can see the truss structure. That looks pretty even. And of course, you could actually, export this image directly from your drafting software. You don't have to do the screenshot method. I'm just doing it this way to save a little bit of time today. So now that screenshot is on my clipboard, I am pasting that right here. And you can see it's awfully big. A couple things I want you to notice right away. So as I pasted that image file here into InDesign, you see it's surrounded by a blue border. InDesign uses the concept of containers to hold graphic objects inside of them. Idea there being if you were laying out a magazine or a newspaper or something like that, and you knew that you were going to have an image that was X amount of inches high by wide, you could lay that out even without the image, and then you could move the image around within that container later. So that's very evident if I start to try to resize this image. So if I resize this down, I hold down Shift so it maintains its aspect ratio. If I hold down Shift until it fits inside of this column, you notice right away that that image in there is still there, but it basically cropped the image down rather than resized it. If you double click on that image, now you'll see the original image behind it with a red bounding box. And you could move it around within that crop box if you wanted to, or you could resize it the same way. What I'm actually going to do though is, because I know that I maintain the same aspect ratio by holding down Shift, I'm going to right click on this container. I'm going to select it, and then I'm going to right click on this container, and under the fitting menu there's a couple of different options here. You can fit the frame to the content, or you can fit the content to the frame. So frame meaning the container frame. So I'm going to fit content, and of course there's a keyboard shortcut for that. I actually have it set up on my Stream Deck as well because it's a frequently used tool, so I just click that button. And now you see it resized this to fit exactly where I needed it. And that actually looks pretty good to me. I don't know that I really want to do a ton more to this. But I do notice right away, okay, maybe I do want a little bit of space in between each one, and maybe I do want a margin around the outside. So I'm going to go to Document Setup for that. And I'm going to give myself a little bit of a margin, maybe 0.125. And where did gutter go? I think that's under layout. Oh yeah, layout, margins, and columns. So you can do the same thing here, but here this gives you your gutter. This one allows you to see a live preview of it, which is super helpful. So I'm going to do 0.125 inches as a margin, and yeah, maybe I'll keep the gutter at the same size. So I have the same border going around all my columns, essentially. Now I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to resize. I'm going to resize this a little bit to fit. I know this seems tedious right now. Keep in mind that I am explaining every single step. So as you get better at it, it goes faster. And once we get the first one of these set up, you'll basically see we're going to copy paste it and use it as a template to make all of our various systems of light. So there we go. That looks a whole lot better now. But what I'm noticing is, okay, I don't really like this line up here where I see this black scrim. Cool part about that container is I could just make that container a little bit smaller and crop that right off. And really, I could do the same thing here at the bottom. I know in this particular show, there is nothing happening downstage with the plaster line because that's going to be all cameras. So I'm going to hug that in there nice and tight. And now that looks good. Now the thing to keep in mind when you do that, though, is now if I were to do a resize content to frame, it's going to stretch it, it's going to squish it a little bit because the aspect ratio has changed. So just be aware of that as you're working through your files. Okay, the next thing I want to do with this is change the opacity. Because as we go back to this one, you notice as you start dropping text and stuff like that on top of it, you don't want all those thick black lines and the red lines and stuff like that to show up. But I do want them to be kind of ghosted there. So that's as simple as clicking on the image, and right here at the top, this might be on the left or on the right side for you. I'm using the Essentials Classic workspace. If you go to Essentials, I believe they've moved it over to the right side. But again, I've been doing this for a long time and I don't like change. So I'm going to look for it up here, and then I can just drag this down and change the opacity. And let's maybe go with 50%. Whoops. Do not want to drop shadow on it. Maybe we'll go with 50% for now. That looks pretty good. Lovely. Great. Okay, if you do not see the blue square around your box, what you're going to want to do is go to View, Extras, and you can see you can hide and show frame edges. So this would be basically exactly how it would be printed. I find that when you're working, it's super helpful to leave those turned on. You can also turn on grids and guides, just like in any other Adobe program. If you click on your ruler and drag it over, you can create yourself vertical and horizontal guides, which is super useful. Okay, back to it. So let's look and see here. So I've got some text boxes here, and of course on this particular plot, most of this plot is LED. So if you remember the first examples I showed you, some of these things there's a lot of color in because it was more of a gel show. These are mostly LED. In fact, in this show there was only, it looks like three colors of gel in there. So what I'm going to do is I want to have a little box there, and usually I put that as what color it is and maybe what kind of instruments it is. And to do that, I'm going to use the rectangle tool, and I'm just going to click and drag and make a rectangle for now. Just like that. Now I've got this rectangle, really nothing about it. It's just an empty rectangle. I'm going to click on it, and I am going to drag it. V, why can't I move it? There we go. There we go. So it's nice and lined up. And you see there's some smart guides that show up as you do it. Question just came in, will I be leaving this up to watch after the fact? Absolutely. And there is another version of this from 3 years ago currently on my channel. Pretty much any live thing I do, I always leave up unless it was a train wreck or I had Zoom crashers, which happened a few times last year. Okay, so now let's go ahead and take a look at how we could color this object. Up here in the top, there's your fill menu. It's basically a fill palette, fill menu here, and you see there's some preset colors, your CMY, RGBs. There's also, you can switch back and forth between stroke and fill. So I could switch, right now I'm on, let me switch that back, excuse me. If I'm on fill, I can click it, it's going to fill my entire box with that particular color. If I switch over to stroke, it's going to then give me a stroke of that particular color, which is pretty great. And then of course, once it's selected over here next to that box, this is where you change your stroke size. But what I want to be able to do is make this box, let me make sure I get this both reset here. I want to get this box to where I can drop a gel color in there. Of course, I could come in here and I could approximate a gel color if I wanted to, but wouldn't it be really awesome if you could just click on, let's say, RO2? And you absolutely can. If you head over to my website, mikewoold.com/store, you can scroll down to swatches, and I have available every major gel manufacturer's library that you can use in any Adobe product. If you use the code YouTube, you can get 25% off, and these will install into, I know for sure, Photoshop, InDesign, and Illustrator. Those are the ones I use them in, but I would assume that you could put them in just about any of the Adobe pieces of software. So now over here, if I look at my swatches, of course I've got these. I'm going to import some swatches. I'm going to say load swatches. And then I've got them here on my system. This show is, I think, only using Roscoe and Lee color, so I'm going to choose my Roscoe book, wait for it to load. And now I've got all the Roscoe colors here in order. And if I click on it, it's not going to do anything there. Whoops. If I click on my box here, and I go back to my fill menu, now you see all those colors are there. So if it was R332, there you go. And they are pretty accurate. There's a couple of Lee colors that are slightly off, and I do have a form on my website that if you find one that's a little off, to let me know, and I do push updates to those as people find them, but I haven't really gotten many complaints over the years. Okay, so this is actually, this box is actually not going to be any color at all again, so I'm going to create myself a swatch that is just a gray. And to do that, I'm going to take the black, hit new swatch, double click on it, and then just bring it down a little bit. And that's going to be kind of my default moving light or LED background color. Cool. Just like that. Now, I could put text over that if I wanted to, but the easier thing to do would be to actually create a text box that has that color fill attribute to it. So I'm going to do that instead. My top light is going to be top wash R2s. I want that text to be centered in that box, and I definitely want a better looking font than that. Let's use Helvetica. Great. So now with this, there we go. And I'll align the text inside of that box center too. Now with this selected, you notice here there are two options on this formatting palette. With the object selected like this, it's going to format the entire box. If you choose text, you can format the text. So what I like to do, if we go back over here to this one, you see I like to have that text be all black. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to make it black. And then we can make our fill color for this that gray. And then I also like to do a slight stroke on my text of white, or of paper, essentially. And can I go 5? Make it a nice small thing. And that'll come in handy later as you start to get into other colors, especially darker colors, because I don't necessarily want to put white text on here, even if it's a dark color, so this will allow me to always see the text no matter what. And I'm going to delete this rectangle, because this is a better way to do it, because now I have one object that I can resize as needed instead of having to have a box and a text box. Great. So now I'm going to do one more text box. I'm actually going to option click and drag this one up. Going to make it slightly bigger, and this is going to be the actual system name. So I guess this would actually be top ML wash, and then this one would be something more like Chauvet R2 units or something like that. And then maybe in this one too, I'll make that text just a little bit smaller. Lovely. And maybe here I'll make this one bold, and maybe just a little bit bigger. And I personally don't like to have a fill behind that. You do you. So just like that. I will, however, leave that stroke behind the text just in case. I should probably save this file as I'm doing this. Okay, so now we are almost already in business here. We've got the base template for what is going to be what we use throughout the rest of this sheet. If I come back over here to, where is it? Here it is. Finder, you see I've pulled together some documents here, the PDFs of this plot, stuff like that. So we're definitely going to want to reference that. But I also like to use a cheat sheet as I'm starting to go through these, because it allows me to check off fixtures really quickly, or check off systems really quickly. And we notice here that, okay, channels 1 through 16 are R2 wash tops. It looks like I've got 3 other ones in another system here. Then I'll come over and I'll cross-reference that with my plot on this sheet layer. And it looks like I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of 4, and then 1 row of 3. Lovely. Okay. So I'm going to actually take this box that I've already made, since it's got the text styling and everything that I already like. I'm going to Option click that again, move it down, and I'm going to type in a 3-digit number there. And the reason I do a 3-digit number, because pretty much every channel in this show is going to be no more than 3 digits. And I want to make sure that the boxes I'm creating can fit 3 digits. There's nothing worse than doing this and then realizing that you've only left enough room for two digits. Great. Something like that. And then I'm just going to copy and paste this box. And I'm going to put these next to each other. Like that. Now you can start seeing, now you start to see hopefully how this is starting to speed up a little bit, right? I'm going to copy paste them again. And these smart guides, and this is where, again, we're having these frame edges turned on really helps you to lay this out. 4, and then what did I say? There were 3 up in the back, right? So that probably somewhere, come on, where's my guide? There it is, there's my guide. And I'll bring that right there. And real quick before I commit this, I'm going to go back over here to my plot. And of course, here's the R2 wash. That looks pretty good. It actually looks like these ones are a little farther up onto this platform area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab all of these. I'm going to deselect, holding down Shift to deselect the thing behind it. I'm just going to nudge these up a little bit. And in looking at it, you know, I need a little bit more space in there, don't I? So I'm going to drag all of them to be a little bit bigger. And that looks a little bit more accurate as to where they are in space. Great. A question just came in from Joel. Are the swatches just color mixed to be as close to the gel color? Yes. So they are, I believe, CMYK equivalencies to all of the major gel manufacturers. So that's why I said I didn't necessarily go through and make every single one of them myself. I did batch that, and that is something you can absolutely do and save yourself the $10 or whatever I'm charging you for them. But if you want to save the time, you're welcome to use mine. As long as you get a CMYK file, you can pretty much do it yourself. Okay, and then my channeling here, it looks like I got 1 and it goes up to 19. So now I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to change these. I'm going to leave these boxes the same size though. Again, this goes back to the idea of having a container that I'm fitting things in, because I know that later on as I start to copy paste this, I'm going to want to be able to fit longer digit numbers and stuff like that in here. 13, 14, 15, 17, 18, and of course 19. Great. So let's go back over to the original one here, and you'll notice one thing about how I lay out my systems. You'll notice that the first number here usually has a bold and an underline, and the ones over here on the far right are italicized. What that means for me is it's how I denote groups and subgroups. So group 1 would be all of these lights. Group 4 would be just wing 1 of those lights. Group 8 would be just wing 2. So, of course, when I copy pasted this box, I believe we already had all the text set to bold. So I'm going to grab them all again, and I am going to change those back to regular. Looks pretty good. And then I'm just going to take this one, and I'm going to change it to bold, and I'm going to go underline with it, which is a button there. And then I'm going to grab the 3 on this column. And I am going to change those to oblique. If your font does not have an oblique or italic setting, you can also shift the angle of your text through InDesign just like that. Boom. That looks pretty good. Oh, Sam just put out a great thing. To center text on the horizontal axis, select the text box and hit Control B. That's awesome. Good to know. The other thing I like to do on this is, you saw on this, I like to have little directional arrows for my systems. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually just going to copy paste these in. All this is an image file of an arrow that has a little bit of opacity to it, and of course is set inside of a container. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to Option drag again, bring these over. And maybe we'll bring them in just a little bit, something like that. And that's pretty much all we need to do for this first system. And now you start to see, okay, I could go now system by system and start copy pasting this very quickly. The other thing you can do here is you can group this by grabbing it all and doing Command G. I don't like to group it quite yet because I want to be able to quickly get in and edit things. Of course you can just by double clicking, just like in other programs, but just not my preference. Okay, so there's my top moving light wash. Next thing up, I've got some spot tops, the Solo Spot 1000s, and that looks like it goes 21 through 29. I can bet that those are in 3 rows of 3, aren't they? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to go like this, grab everything, I'm going to Option drag, hold down Shift, bring it right over here to my other column. I'm going to change this to top ML spots. This is Sola 1000. And again, this is all from the house rep. So really I'm making a house rep magic sheet here. And then what I'm going to do so that I don't have to restyle things again is I'm going to delete those. I'm going to drag these in. Oops. Was that command shortcut? Control B? Well, that doesn't work for me. But maybe it does on Windows. Okay. So I'm just going to do it manually right there. Now I'm going to come in here and change these numbers, and I believe they were 21 through 29. Now, what you could do, you could set these up as text styles. You can do all that kind of stuff as well if you're going to get really fancy with it. And I recommend that you do play around with it, get it the way you like it. And then, I like to just open up the previous show and then I work from there, because you're going to find, that you're using a lot of the same systems, you're using a lot of the same gobos, the same colors, stuff like that. So it's a quick and easy way to knock it out. Okay. And then, of course, you could also denote on here about the whole bold italics thing. I don't, because my team and I are the only ones who use this magic sheet, so we know what that means. The magic sheet is supposed to be pretty personal to you, so you don't necessarily have to have a key for everything. Okay, next I've got some quantum profiles, 31 through 38. I'm gonna go back over here to the plot, and of course those are 1, 2, 3, 4 here, and then 4 across the back. So I've got some slightly different spacing this time. Same thing again. I'm gonna Option drag over. My mouse is way too sensitive on horizontal scroll. Let's see, this would be top ML quantum. Is it AM or UM? UM, duh. Come on, Mike. Not the first time I've messed that up. Nope. Spot. And we said there are 4 in a row. Like that, getting nice and aligned. Boom. And then the other 4, look, these 4 were pretty tightly clustered together. There's a lot of Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons music here, so there's going to be a lot of Jersey Boys, Hal Binkley tribute lighting going on there with some sharp white circles coming from those 4, and then these back ones are going to basically be a texture wash almost the whole time. So to show that, I want to space the upstage ones out just a little bit more. And those are about there. And bring these up. And actually, I don't want a bold one there for obvious reasons. One thing I will encourage you all as you're watching me do this, if you see me forget to number something and I move on to the other system, make sure you call me out on that, because I've printed magic sheets before and then realized that I forgot to change numbers. 31, 32, 33, 34, 38. Okay. Now, yeah, there's a lot of wasted space on this particular one, and if I was a little bit more, if this was a full-size theatrical show, maybe I would make this a smaller box or change something about it. But for the purposes of what we're doing on this particular project, this is really all I need. Okay, next we have 41 through 46. These are some Sola Frame theaters that are in the house rep, and these are on the front of house plate. And yep, it's just 6 in a row, 41 through 46. So I'm going to do the same thing again, grab those. And you can see, just like with, when you're laying out a plot in your drafting software, it's hard to type and talk at the same time. Sola Theater. Just like when you're laying out systems in your drafting or in your drafting software, it's a whole lot of copy pasting and repetitive systems over and over and over again. Now this is another example. There's a single row of these. So do I really need to have this entire box in here? Absolutely not. And if this was a larger rig, I would care about that, but I don't. Something like that, nice and aligned. And this is the first time that we want to change our arrow directions. So to do that, I'm grabbing all of them and I'm just going to give them a little spin there. And I already forgot the numbers, 40s, right? Yeah, 40s. If you are a Mac user and you don't have a mission control button on your mouse, I highly recommend it. I don't know how I would live without it. I've got a little thumb button there. 41 through 45. Oh, there are 6 of them. Stupid, Michael. And now this is a good gotcha section here, because oh, good catch there. There's only 9 Sola spots. Thank you, viewer, because I would have been there and we would have been like, why isn't channel 30 turning on? And so there we go. I need to have you guys with me every time I do one of these so you can catch my errors as I make them. Okay, so those, that kind of works. I was gonna say maybe we need to squish them in a little bit, and I could if I wanted to, but again, for this purposes, I think I'm gonna call that good. Okay, so that's 41 through 46. Next up, I've got 51. Let's see, I want to go, how do I do continue? 51 through 70. So it looks like there's a color source par top system. Now, because I've had all the moving lights up here on this row, oh, hey, Matt. Because I've had the moving lights up here on the top row, I'm not going to do this next system here. I'm going to move down to my next box, because that makes a little bit more sense in my mind in terms of how I would light the show. Okay, I'm going to move those down. And now, I don't really, again, I'm using the rep, so I don't know what this system actually does. I know it's a top wash system, but it looks like I've got 51, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I've got 5 across by 1, 2, 3, 4 deep. So that is 20 fixtures in a 5x4 grid. Okay, so I'm pretty close to being there already. I'm just going to take this, something like that maybe, and then we'll number them. And you'll also notice how I number my systems. I really only have to change the first digit in most of these things because I use, that's the numbering schema that I use. This makes it really fast to come in here and pop these in. 2, 63, 64, 65, 67, 68, 69, and 70. Okay. And then, of course, I'm going to change what these are. This is a top par wash, and this is color source And now I'm going to double check my spacing here because that looks like they're a little too spaced out. No, that's actually pretty accurate. That fifth row is pretty much over top of my platform, and we will probably focus those to be, I can't really call it top light. It'll be kind of a front angle, but it'll be front light. So there, top par wash, just like that. Okay, so I left off at 70. 71 is next. I've got a template system, a high side template system. So if you look at this, it looks like 71 through 79 come in from stage right, 81 through 89 come in from stage left. So the easiest way that I found to denote that is to make a double wide box to show it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click drag or option drag this over. I'm going to delete these directional arrows for right now. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab both of these top headers and I'm going to drag them over to be double wide and call this high side template wash. And what instruments? These are all lusters. Lucky me. Thank you, Joel. I swear that I'm usually better at this when I'm doing it. I messed this up. This is supposed to be 5 across by 4, not this way. So that's a pretty easy fix. I just need to pay more attention. Like I said, it's been about a year since I've done one of these for obvious reasons. So, yeah, thanks for bearing with me there. And there, that's about right. Then, of course, I want to renumber this 53, 54. I'll give you all some studio assistant credits for this, right? Just list you as YouTube in the playbill. 66, 7, 68, 69. Now, is that right? It is. Thank you for that. Okay, so that system is accurate now. Okay, and then so I'm here. I'm going to option drag this, just the background over. So now I have 2 systems here. And let's look at what these are. I've got 9, so that's screaming to me that this is probably a 3x3 system again. 71, 72, 73. Yep, a 3x3 system just in the downstage area. So I'm going to go 1, 2, hold down Command, 1, 2, 3. Hold down Shift, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. The reason I skipped 1 is because I want that italic stuff in there, and I'll come in here after the fact and I will clean it all up. Delete you all. Something like that. And something like that. Oops, not option click, Mike. Shift and drag. Great. Never have I wanted a number pad. Yeah. Comment there just about having a number pad. I got myself, actually mid-pandemic, I got an actual Magic Keyboard to replace my old big one, and I love having the little number pad over on the side. It's absolutely wonderful. Okay, so now I'm going to space these out a little bit. I'm just going to drag them all and deselect those. Probably somewhere in there. And then these are actually spaced out just a little bit more than the others. So I am going to kind of do that. What you'll notice now as I start to do this is I'll get some smart guides that show up to help me with spacing. See that right there next to the 62 and the 54 on the right-hand side that tells me they're evenly spaced. I found with the amount of objects I throw on here, sometimes the smart guides get a little confused, but yeah. Okay, so 70s and 80s. So this is 71, 2, 23. I actually think this is the only quote-unquote conventional gobo system in this show, even though it's LEDs. All my other gobos are going to be coming from the movers. 86, 87, 88, and 89. Great. And then let's go back to our directional arrows here for a second. I'm going to grab these two. I'm going to option click them over, and I'm going to give them a little bit of a spin. Something like that. And maybe I'll do a double set of them to show that this side comes from here. And then maybe I'll option drag them over like this and give them a rotate. Whoops, and give them a little bit of a rotation. Something like that. And it would be really nice if I had a gobo image there, wouldn't it? And of course, it's GAM 579, my favorite go-to breakup. So I've already got that image here pulled just for the purposes of today's demo. I'm going to drag it right over here. Of course, it is absolutely massive, so I'm going to make that container smaller, just like we did before. I'm holding down Option and Shift, and it's doing it in all directions instead of just one, which makes this a little bit faster. I'm going to put that container right here in the center, and then we can do, of course, a fitting fit content to frame. It looks pretty good, and what I might actually do is double click on that, and maybe instead of it being round, maybe I just want the texture there. Well, that looks kind of cool. And maybe it wants a little opacity as well, just to kind of make it so it's not quite as pronounced. Looks pretty good. I've also done this before where I put it behind the text boxes. Of course, you can change your... If I wanted to do that, I would need to change my stacking order. So I would do arrange, bring to front. Now you can see that's where having that little bit of a stroke on there is super useful. But for this, I'm just going to leave it in the center. Last thing here then, of course, is to change this over to to Luster Series to Lico. Great, so there's my high side template wash coming from both sides. You could also put the arrows here if you want. I've done that before. And actually, you know, for this one, I think that actually might be a little bit more useful so I really see where these are coming from. So maybe I'll do a row of them like that. Get rid of these up here. Yeah, I kind of like that more because I'm going to be looking at the numbers, you know? So this will really allow me to quickly see which direction these templates are coming from. Like that. I'm going to give it a spin. So everything I always forget to do is to rotate the arrows after I copy paste them. So, great. Okay, what is up after channel 89? We have 6 Luster Fresnels as just kind of a backwash. So let's look for those right here, just 6 in a row. Those look pretty good there. You know what I'm probably going to do with those? I'm going to put those in their own small little box here underneath the top par wash. I don't want to waste an entire box for that like I did with the moving light. So I'm going to grab all of this. I'm going to option click. Oops. I'm going to get a new computer that can handle all of this graphics stuff I've been doing lately. I'm going to option click and drag this down. I haven't worried very much about spacing here yet. I'm going to come back and do that later. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete all of these numbers. The reason I'm going to do that, oops. The reason I am going to do that is because I already have a row of spaced out 6 fixtures right here that I could copy and paste right where I want them. Now again, I can make this a whole box. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to put them somewhere like right there, and then I am just going to drag this to be a little bit smaller. So this is helpful because it shows me kind of where they are and where they're coming from. Depending on the system, sometimes my magic sheets are where the lights are hitting, sometimes they're where they're coming from. Again, it's kind of whatever works in my mind at that particular moment on that particular show. For now, and this is a back frizz wash. And what were the numbers on that? 91 through 96. 92, 3, 4, 5, 96. Great, making great progress here. Okay, we're almost we're over halfway done really with systems. Okay, next up we have 101 through 115, which are all front lights. And those actually have Lee 201 in them. That's on the paperwork, so I will fix that. Okay, let's go ahead and do our front light system here. Let's look at it actually first. Looks like all of that front light comes from front of house. So it goes 101. Yeah, there's 2 rows here. So I've got a downstage, midstage, and upstage row all come from front of house. And those instruments are tungsten LEDs. So it's like the studio tungsten LED that you can tune the white on. We usually just leave it, I forgot what color temperature we leave it in, but then we throw our 201 in there. Okay, so let's put those in. This will be a good example of our gel swatch here. So I'm going to option that down here. For now, I'm going to put it here. You might find I move it later. And this was what, 5 across by 3 deep. So I'm going to delete this here. That looks pretty good. A question just came in from Michael. Is that cheat sheet from Lightright? No, this cheat sheet is actually from my own program called the Paperwork Management Portal, which you can find all kinds of videos about here on my YouTube channel, shameless plug. It is based in FileMaker, and it does all of my production paperwork for me. I do use Lightright while I'm drafting, and then for final paperwork, I move over to that because I just like the way that it looks better. 101, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But you could absolutely use a Lightright cheat sheet. It's the same idea. It's a it's a magic sheet in table form, right? 113, 114, and 115. Okay, and then this is front wash, or front fill, really. Probably will never even turn these on in this show, and those of you who have been with me for a while, you know that I barely ever have front light systems in most of my productions anymore. So this is a source for LED tungsten, and that has Lee 201 plus R132. And actually, now that I do that, I should probably put up here Luster Lico plus, or no, just GAM 579 plus, I can't type, plus R132. I like to do my gobo systems like a template wash like that. I'll take them sharp and drop 132 in it. You get a nice even edge. And if you're designing a rep plot, I recommend doing that too, because then you have 2 options with relatively little changeover. If you have a designer one day who's coming in and using your rep who wants a sharp edge gobo, you just go through and pop out your 132. If they want a soft edge, you pop in your 132. Of course, if you want to run in or out, that's a different story, but kind of get you there. Okay, so the next thing is I want to change this over to Lee 201. Of course, it's a color that doesn't exist in my swatch library here, so I'm actually going to import my, that's not what I wanted. I'm going to import my Lee libraries here, load swatches, and Lee color. And we wait. Probably should have saved that first, right? Just in case that crashed my thing. Okay, I must have clicked on a swatch. But I'm going to come in here and I'm going to find Lee 201. There it is. Pretty close. And you see there's a slight color difference between all the 200. So it does a pretty good job. I think that some of the pastel pinks, if I remember correctly, in the Lee range were a little off here and there, but you can also adjust it yourself if you want. But if you do buy this and you find one that's off, please do let me know so I can push out an update to fix it. Okay, 101 through 105. Great, so there's my front fills. The system's already done. Okay, now I've got some box booms here. It looks like 2 sets of box fills. Is that right? What is that coming from? 121, 22, 23. And that's the 30s. What are the 140s? Oh, I bet you those are coming from the house ladders. So I almost don't want to show this plate. I was experimenting with 3D label legends for the first time on this plot, and I did not like them. I have since learned about schematic views, which are way better. Yes, okay, that's where they are. So this is the only plot that will ever look this bad. I was trying to do it in 3-dimensional space, but now I'm using schematic views, so just ignore this for now. But that is indeed where they are. They're on this little house ladder system here. And if we want to see that, if we come into Deck Instruments, and we wait again for my computer to catch up, and we start flying around a little bit. Sorry, little iMac, you can do it. I believe in you. Start flying around a little bit here. You can see that they have this computer does not like this. There are these house ladder positions here where you have you've got pipe. There's Oscar the Grouch. You've got the pipe here, and that's where those are. So okay, let me take that back to wireframe before my computer cries. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and make these box booms, and you know what? I want to do these box booms kind of in the same style that I did my high sides, because I've got, it looks like 6 coming from one side and 6 coming from the other side. They just happen to be a little bit closer, a little bit farther away. So it would make sense to me to drop that right underneath here, because it would look good graphically. And that's, you know what, in looking at this, that's going to want to make me move this guy, which I'm going to group really quick. I'm going to move him over here for now, just to get him out of the way. And I'm going to move this front light to its own row here, or to the header of its own column. Now what I could do is drag all of this straight down. And I've already got the template pretty much ready to go for what I'm trying to do here. Of course, I'm going to need to change the arrows, and of course I only have 2 rows, so I'm going to delete these. Something like that. I'm going to change this to, come on, box boom fills. I believe these are all lusters as well. It's kind of a dream rig to work with in many ways, because anything I want in any color I want, basically, I can make that happen. So now I'm just dragging these, and I'm holding down Shift to lock these in degree increments. I believe somewhere in settings, you could, just like in drafting software, you can choose what those increments are. But for me, I think I've got them set to 45. Great, something like that. And kind of like before, I don't need this extra space up in here. I'm going to leave it for now, just because I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here. Okay, so we've got 121 through 123 here as the fars. And then the nears looks like our 130 ones. It's a different system. So what I'm going to do for that, I'm going to want this here. Oh, crap. Try again. There we go. 131, 132, 33. And then over here, I guess it would be 126, yeah. Wait, what? Oh, I see. Okay, on the house ladder, there's actually 2 rows of it. So I've got another row that will fill the upstage in. That makes a little bit more sense. So the way I'm going to denote that is I'm going to clump the house ladder position here. I'm going to clump these together, and then I'm going to come over to my other drawing just to get this object. But I've got this little like text box with a dotted line in it. I'm going to pop that in here and maybe make it a little bit smaller. Say, maybe just make it, I mean, you can put a line in there if you want. I'm going to leave it just as a text box with a dotted line for now in case I decide that I want to put some kind of denotation in there later. But for now, I'll just do that. Just to kind of show that it's separate systems. 134, 135, and 136. And just for simplicity's sake, I will delete these. And good catch, my front fill arrows were not spun. God, I don't know how, well, I'd be paying a little bit more attention if I wasn't narrating the whole time, I guess. That's my saving grade. That's the story I'll use, right? Okay, I'm just going to drag these all over. Like that. Nudge them into the right spot. Oops, don't want to do that. I don't want, when you're doing this, you want to make sure you have that blue bounding box. If you have a red bounding box, it means that you're rotating the content from inside of its frame, which is not what we want. So I'm going to just grab these. Put them there. Okay, so number-wise, this was, I see. Okay. So the numbering does make sense for... At least I'm going to tell myself it does. And then this is 141, 42, 43, 46. Okay, there's my box booms. Okay, I've got some specials on the balcony rail that are 150 through 153. I'm actually just going to write that down for now. I'm going to write special on a list to do because I'm going to come back and do specials later. Next up, I'm going to move over to my booms. So the booms, like I said, on this show are quite substantial. And if you, again, forgive my very ugly boom plot here that is not in schematic view, you'll see that there are basically 4 units per boom, not counting these band booms back here. I've got a shin, a mid, a head, and a high, even though that's kind of a head as well. And they go, they wrap around. So 201 is the shins, 211 is the mids, 221 is the heads, and 231 is the highs. I could do this a couple of different ways. I could lay out 4 separate boxes for all of my things, and that's honestly what I'm probably going to do for this. But what I also have done in the past is done something kind of, if you look at this ladder, or right down here, this boom system, you can see I didn't do a graphic thing behind it. I just put all of the boom numbers in one box and laid them out in systems like that. So really whatever works for you. I, though, am going to go ahead, and I know that I've got 4, so I'm going to lay them out. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to do that because it's very wasteful just to have two rows of text in a box that size. So really what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to grab some items that I want. I'm going to pull them out. So I know I want that, and I want that. And I know I want a regular one as well. And again, I know that I have 4 deep, so I'm just going to make that real quick. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Something like this. Great. And by doing that, I could probably fit a whole bunch of them on there. Let's look and see how I did it. Oh, not there. Look and see how I did it here. Yeah, that's exactly what I did. Lovely. I don't know why I keep doing that. Okay. So there's one system. There's 2 systems. And what I have noticed is I'm not going to be able to fit all 4 of them across one column, which is not the end of the world. I could probably make these boxes a little bit smaller if I wanted to, but I'm just going to go with what I've got here. So these, then I'm going to want a system header kind of like that. I'm going to want that to be the same size as those, and I'm going to want a title for it. Something like that. And these are all lusters as well, and they have 102 in them. We wanted a little bit of a tougher thing so the camera could really see a point of light. R102. Okay, and then I need to label which ones are which system-wise. So maybe I could use this smaller text box that I brought in before for something like that. And I'll just do a one for each here. Bring these all down. We'll start with our shins. Drop it here. here just so I get it aligned properly. Shins, mids, heads, and highs. Great. Drop you down as well. Something like that. And then we'll just start numbering. 201, 202. This is a good example of a Magic Sheet object that the number corresponds to where the fixture is rather than where it's hitting. That's how I personally do booms. I know that some people do it the opposite way, so they would be, you know, it would be like 207 is coming from this side, but it's hitting over here, so they list it over here. That's just not how my mind works, so I don't do it that way. 13. And again, this is similar to other systems. So, you know, the whole midsection will be 211. But if I want an individual row, then I can call out this group number over here. 221, 222, 224, 225, 226. Sorry for counting as I go, but 231, 232, 234. This is really the only, I think, tedious part of this process, really, is typing in all the numbers once you get your stuff set up the way you like it. All right, so it looks like 201 through 238, and that's going to knock out, again, I still have these specials I'll come back to here. That gets me all the way to here, and then it looks like, crap, did I make a... All right, folks, there's only 3 booms deep. I'm so sorry. I feel like an idiot there. 214, 215, 216, 224, 225, 226. 234, 235, and 236. There we go. Yes, Joel had the question on using the drop-in diffusions. Yeah, there is drop-in diffusion in all of these. This diffusion is more for creating a kind of a pixel point on camera than it is necessarily to diffuse the light. So obviously it will diffuse the light, and you know, we do have those beam homogenizers in there already. This is strictly to kind of create a nice looking surface to see on the camera. Because they'll all be at a probably a low level. Honestly, these are kind of becoming more of, it's more of a scenic element than necessarily a lighting source at this particular point. Of course, we will use them for actual light, but you get the idea. Yeah, you know, I'm sure that somebody smarter than me could make some kind of a script or something like that for InDesign where you could number fields. Anybody does that, let me know. Maybe I'll look. That's a good thing to look into because I am sure that could be possible. Okay, that looks like the right numbers. Okay, now I have some strip lights for my cyc. It looks like 7 there and 7 at the bottom. So this is going to be real simple. And let me zoom out a little bit and see how this is starting to look. You know what, I'm probably going to want, since this is kind of a weird shape, maybe I'll put this over here. I like to leave weird shaped stuff, kind of let it hang out this way. Maybe I'll put my cyc down here. And so this is 7 by 2. Crap. And again, this is going to be a case of not needing a stage picture because I know exactly where these lights are. And I'm probably going to want it to be a little bit wider. So let me come up here and find, here was a 6 wide. Where's my other 6 wide? I'll just grab 5 boxes, who cares? 3, 4, 5. We'll move these over. You get a little bit better control if you zoom in a little bit it to here. There we go. So I've got a top row. And you know what? I'll make this fit the right size, just like I did before. So that'll be there, and then we'll drag this to fit there. If I really wanted to, and you know what, I'm probably going to do it for this, I can drag all of this to fit in there, and look at that, they all fit. Okay, so these are, the top is 301 through 307. So we'll go 301, 302, 303, 304, 305, 306, and 307. And the bottom, and these are color source linears in multi-cell mode. So it's actually like, I think 4 per, which is great, but I don't denote that on the magic sheet. Gone are the days of the color blasts with 80 cells on there. That was a fun magic sheet to make. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to grab this little text box I had here, and I'm going to move these again. Top. Yeah, I can put some arrows in here too, whatever your heart desires. Bottom. Great. And I might not get through this whole thing tonight. I'm looking at the clock here, and I wanted to try to keep this to an hour and a half tops. So if I don't get it done tonight, I think you've at least got a good sense of where it's going. It's like strips. And this is color source linear. I want to put multi-cell mode in there just so I remember it. So I am very forgetful. And we'll put these right there for now. Great. What's next? I've only got 2 pages left. I'm pretty... Okay, so this is now my ground package here. I've got 4 moving lights on the ground that are quantum washes. I've got 3 Sola 1000s from the house inventory. I've got some band backlight here. There's some cross temps. And then a whole bunch of specials and other stuff like that. And the truss warmers. Okay. Let's see here. Let's do these movers first. So if I remember correctly, I've got one more space up here in my moving light row that I could use for that. I'm just going to click and drag this rather than trying to use my side scroll. So I'm going to do something like that. Deck package movers. And then maybe here I could just do, let's say this is Sola. We'll do the quantum wash here. And then again, there's only 4 of them, right? So I'm going to do these 4. And I'm actually not going to do an image for these because they're basically right on top of each other. If we go back over to the plot for a second. Not that one. We want to look at the deck plot here. Deck upstage. You'll see it's, it alternates wash spot. So really, I'm going to leave those 4 like that. And I'm going to number them. So my washes are 401 through 404. And then I'm going to guess 411 through 413 are my next 3. Yep. So what I'll do here is I'm going to move these boxes up to hug here. I'll grab that, drag this down. Let me give it a little bit more space, and we'll say Sola 1000. I wanted to do something a little beefier on the deck than the Sola 1000s here, but it really just came down to budget, so that's what we're using. And then the house inventory. I would have liked to have had 3 more quantum spots to put there, just so they kind of matched a little bit more, but they'll look good if we do our jobs right. And really now, as I start to look at this, I could say, okay, maybe instead of just moving lights, Yeah, I'll leave it as moving lights. That makes the most sense, I think. And then the next thing we have here, if I grab this and move it down, we had these band backlights. These are essentially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 color source pars that will sit on floor stands behind the risers and shoot up behind the band. So it'll kind of create a cool wall of light. So I'm going to move you over, little friend, and I want 2 more of you friends. Just like, oh. Come on. I called you my friend. Why aren't you being friendly? There we go. And we will center those. I said we will center those. Oh, that's right. 6Y does not center. So this is one of those cases where now I could just kind of drag this in to make it all fit nicely. Again, we won't see those frame edges when we go to print this, so it doesn't super matter. And then these channel numbers are 421 through 426. Those of you who have been with me for a while, you'll notice that I have changed the channel numbering scheme that I had used for over a decade. Now that more and more and more of my rigs are moving lights, I've started moving the moving lights down to the bottom of my channel numbering to help with making it a little bit faster and easier for the programmer. They used to be up in the hundreds, but not so much anymore. Now these moving lights are because they're specials, but you know, as a general rule. It's my favorite part of this plot right here. We have a trash can prop that has some wireless units in it. Okay, next we have some band cross templates. Looks like 431, 432, and then some boom cross light as well. I actually believe that these cross temps are coming from the electrics. Let's double check. Yeah, they are. These are actually, these were part of the high side system and I repurposed them. So we got 431, 432. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a similar thing to what I did for that stuff. I am going to just kind of keep coming down that column with all of these various specials. So I've got something like this. And this is going to be band cross wash. And then this will be boom fills. And then I'll have another one that is high temp cross. And my boom fills were 41 through 44. And I know that that was like this. So essentially you've got these guys here. Oh, line up, damn it. Let's do a line tool. There we go. Maybe this is something I could use my arrows for. Good. And this was what, 431? Does that right? Or 441? 441. 2, 3, 44. Item cross, luster, gam, 579. There's only 2 of those units, so it might seem dumb to have both of these grouped, but in a situation like this, sometimes what we'll do is we'll say, all right, group 441 is channel, or excuse me, group 431 is channels 431 and 432, and then group 432 is the same thing but in the reverse order. On that particular system, that is not super important, but on larger systems, sometimes that can be helpful. And then I am going to just put this in here. Something like that, and we'll make it the same size as the text box, just to give me, kind of draw my eye that it is a template. Or better yet, let's put it in the middle. Something like that. And let's grab a couple of arrows here. Put one there. Put one here. Wow, a lot of you are still with me. That's exciting. feels very dry to me, but I'm glad that you're finding it useful. Okay, and then I will move this stuff up a little bit like that. Great, band crosswash is done. So that page is done. Last page here, we've got a fly rail wash. Our truss warmers, oh, a lot of truss warmers. I'm going to get to that in a second. And we've got balcony toners and some more available specials on the balcony. Why I didn't channel those other balcony specials in this same range, we will never know. But I'm not going to change it now. I want to try one thing real quick, and this could be a disaster. I want to see if I can squish this in to fit. Well, not as much of a disaster as I thought it would be, but I want them to have a little bit of breathing room. So I'm going to go ahead and move these booms down to here. And I actually might do the opposite. I might stretch them out even further, just so they take up the space like that. That worked pretty well. My arrows got messed up. I'm actually just going to delete those arrows for now. I'll maybe add them back in later. I'm not going to waste all of your time doing that. But it's obvious which direction they're coming from, I think. So I'm going to do that. Now I still have lots of open real estate to fill up here, which is awesome. Okay, what was I doing? Fly rail light. So again, if we go back to the plot here and we go to our deck plate, this is basically 4 color source pars that are on floor stands upstage and downstage, and they will wash the fly rail with color because it will be visible in some of our camera shots. So I've got 451, 2, 3, and 4 starting downstage. So what, why can't I move? There we go, because I'm in a different program. Come on, Mike. I'm going to grab just any old 3 boxes here. And these are stacked, so I'm going to go like this with it. I'm excited. I'm going to swap my iMac out this summer for my previs computer and build a new previs computer because as you can tell, this iMac is getting a little bit long in the tooth when it comes to doing any of this. And it's also only because I'm running OBS at the same time. Okay, 451. 452. 453. And 454. Okay. And now for these, when it's a special system like this is where I start getting a little bit more kind of loosey-goosey with it. So we'll say fly, wash. And I kind of want it to be this kind of just small area there. I'll probably throw, you know, the hazer there next to it or something like that. I don't necessarily care that kind of unique one-off systems like this share the same, you know, the whole box system and everything else that we had before. Right now, I'm actually just going to move it over here out of the way, and we'll see what else we need to add in. I've got these trash can practicals, so maybe I'll do that here. We'll do trash can practicals, and there's 2 of them, I believe. I'm just going to call it trash. I think that's the best description of my work. 551, 552. Come for the magic sheets, stay for the comedy, folks. Here we go. And you know it would be fun, just because I like fun. Let's grab our friend Oscar here. I'm just going to grab him as a screenshot. And I'll throw him over here on the magic sheet. You know, it's important to have branding in your work, right? It's important to have consistency of visual style. So what would a magic sheet with a trash can be if we didn't have a trash can, right? That just makes sense to me. Okay, and of course we want to bring that to the front. There, I have never seen a more beautiful magic sheet in my life. Okay, that's great. Moving on. Maybe I have a little header here. Miscellaneous specials. Miscellaneous specials. something like that. Okay, and maybe I'll throw my other specials in here. I'm ignoring these truss warmers for now because I'm going to do a separate thing for that. So I've got 611 through 614, and then for some reason I also have 150. Oh, you know what? Okay, these are actually, I know why these are different. These specials are on the front of house catwalk system. Usually you could throw color in those. These specials are on the balcony rail, and of course they are all lusters. So I'm just going to use these ones for right now. Balk special. Already forgotten how many there are. There's 4 of them. And look at that. Here's a row of 4 things. Grab that, bring it down. And those were 611. Some things I won't put on here. I'm not going to put the house lights on here because there's like 80 channels of house light. I used to put like the group or anything, but I don't really care anymore. I'll just say house lights, and people will know what that means. I'm also not going to put things like the MBox channels, because I think we're using like, I think it's like 8 or 10 different fixtures for the MBox system on this. None of that really matters for this magic sheet. Okay, and then let's do our front of house specials. And those numbers were 150 through, really? All right, for some reason I started that with 150. It should have been 151. Well, oh, you're absolutely right. I accidentally stole that header. Let me just undo. Yeah. And cross light. So this was out of, the 3 people that are on my team plus a production electrician who have all looked over this all a million times. Somehow we have all missed that we accidentally channeled this as 150, 151, 152, 153. And again, if this was a bigger theatrical show, I would care about that, and we would update it and get it pushed to all of the paperwork and stuff like that. But I'm probably not even going to use those in this show, to be honest with you all. Okay, other practical we have here is 561, which is a street light. Hold down Shift, Mike, not Control. Okay, we actually might make it here tonight. I'm just going to call this a lamp. And of course it doesn't fit. There we go, lamp. And when I'm futzing with it like that, I could just do that and then do center align. That would make more sense. And I'm also not going to put the hazer on here because, again, I'm just going to say haze, and then the hazer will magically happen, right? Okay, so I've got some space left here. Let's zoom out and kind of get an overview of what this is looking like. I'm going to turn off my frame edges again. So I'm going to go to View, Extras, Hide Frame Edges. Now I get a little bit better sense of what this is going to look like as I start to print it. I've gone back and forth on if I want to put borders around things. I probably will for this one, but some shows I don't like the way it looks, some shows that I do. So it's kind of hard to know until you really zoom out and you see what it's looking like visually. And it kind of helps you decide from there. Pretty good. And there will be some white space on this. I'm going to be okay with that. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to space these out a little bit more, but I'll wait on that. But I have this column right here available to lay out my truss warmers. And here is the question now. How do I want to show these truss warmers on the magic sheet? So currently, this is it's 1 page of the plot. And there are 3 different systems of truss warmers. Let's zoom this around a little bit. Oh, I can't do that on a sheet layer. And you can see there's a downstage system here, there's a midstage system, and there's a flown system here. So what I'm probably going to do is do this as 3 separate boxes. I'm going to do the upper one first, then the upstage one, and then the downstage one. And I don't know. Do I want to pull those in from capture maybe and actually have an image of the truss? Or you know what I'll do, honestly? Let's just do this. Let's grab this plot image. Let me delete this annotation for now. I'm going to grab this entire plot image. It's a screenshot. And we're just going to see what happens. That's on my clipboard now. I'm going to save this. But anytime I go to paste or anything into, I always do a quick little save just in case it crashes or something like that, because I don't want to get burned. Okay, and now I'm going to pop this smaller. And really what I'm doing right now is I just want to see if I can get this to a size that I could actually still be usable, but not have to do a whole lot of layout work, right? Fit content to frame. The answer is probably not in this particular thing, but is there a way I could rearrange some stuff on this page to make room for it? And I think that I can. I think I'm going to group all of these specials. I'm going to group all of this psych strip stuff. I'm just doing Command G for that. I'm going to group these side booms. And what I want to do is I want to be able to fill in a larger space right here with it. I want to leave a little bit of room at the bottom for like my name and the show logo and things like that. But what if I did that? That works pretty well, honestly, if I did something like that. And then I've got this there. I've got my specials down there. This is why I didn't group things earlier. I mean, you could do it as you go, but you know, maybe something like this. And then maybe I'll stretch this out nice and wide just to fill the white space a little bit, because I believe the warmers are all that I have left, right? Oh, my balcony toners. Damn it. I'll put those down here. Actually, you know what? Those are going to go right underneath my front light because they're kind of like front light, right? And those are 601 through 604. I hate working in groups like this. I like to ungroup it first. You can double click in just like you can in most programs, but I don't know. I just have a really hard time with it, it seems like. I'm going to ungroup it, copy what I want, group it back, and then paste. Maybe I'm just impatient. Uh, 601 through 604. We are almost there, folks. I think we're going to make it. Maybe not in an hour and a half like I had hoped, but probably in an hour 40 maybe. And wow, there's been about 20 of you watching pretty consistently, so thank you so much for being with me today. I hope that you found the content that I've put out during the pandemic useful. You know, my goal is to just keep doing it. You can support me by joining my Patreon, by sending a tip, just by sharing my content. That's super helpful. Got some pretty exciting things in the works for the new year that I'm excited to share with everybody, and I will as soon as I can. Okay, so let's go ahead and do our truss warmers here, and then we will do our title block area and maybe some borders, and we will call it a night. I'm going to turn my frame edges back on again. Again, I have that on my Stream Deck as a button. If you do have a Stream Deck or any kind of macro keyboard like that, it's the kind of perfect little thing that you do that I would link to it, because you use it all the dang time. Okay. Truss warmers. And these are Martin. I didn't put manufactured anything. These are Rush Par Zooms. Zoomy Zooms. Okay. Great. And I'm going to nest this up nice and tight in there. Something like that. Okay, now if I get really lucky, I can zoom in and I can read the channel numbers. I can't quite. So I'm gonna move this over here onto my other monitor just so actually I'm gonna open up that plot and I'm gonna put it on my other monitor just so I can see a little bit clearer. So starting at the top, we've got 528 through 532. So I'm gonna grab a box here. I'm going to make sure that I have sent this all the way to the back. And you know what? Rather than doing that, I want to have my master group box here. Where are you? Maybe I didn't hit paste? Okay, I must not hit paste. So I'm going to drop this over here. Now right away I'm noticing, okay, it's kind of ugly to have the thing behind there, so maybe what I could do with this is I could make my text stroke just a little bit bigger. Oops. I'm going to open this up. No. I'm going to open you up. I'm going to choose stroke. And I'm going to go, oh, sorry. I'm going to open you up. I'm going to choose text. And then maybe make the stroke a little bit bigger. Maybe just like that. You could also maybe make a white fill behind the box. You know, again, this is very specific to this particular application. And again, this was 528. And of course, this one I don't want to be bold. And I don't want to be underlined. 530. A question just came in about budget for the show. So my rental package on this show is coming in at around $5,000, I believe. We're using Magnum. Shout out to Magnum in Atlanta for this. They're giving us a heck of a deal on it. They've been really awesome to us on this. So it's about that for lighting. Again, if you go back to if you're just joining, if you go back to the very beginning of this, most of the plot that you're seeing in front of you is in the house rep. So we're super, super fortunate at the Sandy Springs Performing Arts Center that we have such an awesome rep plot to work with, or an awesome inventory to work with. Typically what I will do is, you know, for a theatrical show, we will move all that stuff around for obvious reasons. For this one, because the name of the game on this one is really, you know, it's a pandemic show. We're going to stream it. We don't, you know, it's not a huge capital outlay on this. We want to make as much money as we can, or the producer wants to make as much money as they can on it. So that's why we're using the rep plot and then just adding to it, because it's going to save on labor cost, it's going to save on time cost, and it's going to save on rental cost. As awesome as the inventory is there, we've found that what it is lacking, and you notice there's a whole bunch of Solo 1000s, which I absolutely love, but it's lacking like large moving lights. There's some Solo theaters on the front of house catwalk system, which is really awesome. But we typically rent in something like a Viper or an Elation Picasso from 4Wall on those, just to kind of give it that extra punch. But yeah, the inventory is awesome because we've got all these lusters to work with, and we very rarely have to rent actual full packages. It's usually just auxiliary moving light package, maybe a rigging package, stuff like that. And then of course the video panels in this are separate. Those are coming in. I don't remember where those are. My team and I are handling the programming and stuff like that of it, and we're gathering content, but we are not doing like the logistics of the load in of the video and all that kind of stuff. Okay, here we go. We are almost there, folks. I promise. I smell dinner downstairs getting ready, so I'm going to try to hurry this along for these last few. And as I'm going through this, you might be saying, okay, these numbers don't make any sense to me, Mike. What exactly is going on here? But if you look at it closely, It still doesn't make sense. No, the uprights here, 501 through 504 are the lower part, and then we have 505, 6, 7, 8 up above here on this upper little things, and of course most of this is blocked by the video panels. And then the next section up is 509. So the numbering system kind of has to do more with where the lights are placed, I guess, in this, and then it makes sense a little bit more. So 501 through 508, and then the upstage from that's 509 through 513. So if I say 501 through 513 at full, it's going to be all my vertical uplights. And if I say, what is it, 521 through 532, it'll be all the horizontal fixtures. Comment there, theater would be a dream to work at. Yeah, you know, it is really cool. It's also a little intimidating, I'm not gonna lie. You know, we've done now 9 full-size shows there. My team and I have been with this company since the very beginning of their work in 2018, and you know, it was a learning experience to go from, you know, this is a big rig to play with, and of course, you know, we learn something new on every show. We try something different with every show. And it's a lot of fun. It's nerve-wracking, but it's a lot of fun. This is, you know, having rigs this large, which, you know, in the grand scheme of things, this is not that large of a rig, but having rigs this large is where really having systems in place in terms of paperwork and organization and stuff is where it saves you. You can't go into a show like this with lackluster paperwork and without a plan. It just won't work. Okay, so 501 through 4, 5 through 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Those look good. 21, 22, 23. And you know what I might do for this on these horizontals is, because they're going to be lighting up the entire truss, I'm going to put these on the truss that they're going to be lighting. So 524. The only downside of this, I'm a little worried. If you notice on this truss layout, it's 12-foot spans between here. We were not able to source 12-foot truss again for the budget, so it's 10 and 2s, and I'm really hoping that the plates are enough to to shine through. I'm hoping I'm not going to get an ugly surprise there, but we'll see what happens. Okay, I'm going to move these up a little bit, and that has left me enough space here at the bottom for some title block information. I've got my logo in here. And you know what, rather than putting this in here and redoing the wheel, I'm actually going to just copy paste from this previous. Got the theater logo, my union bug, a title. Paste those in. I only grabbed one, of course. That's fine. The sad part, all I have to do is change 2021. Okay, let's go ahead and I'll drag my stuff in here. So I want my logo in there, which is probably good because I think the links were broken in the other document. Make it nice and small. Fit content to frame. So maybe I'll do that. I'll do... That was fun. So I accidentally dragged the union bug. Oh, my color temperature of light just changed. The union bug onto the container there, which I don't want. That is the cool part about the containers, is that you can drag other images on top of them, but you have to be careful when you're doing it unintentionally, or else you'll mess yourself up pretty quickly. That works especially well for gobos, I've found. Content to frame. Okay. I went a little too far there and I accidentally flipped it. Fit content to frame. I'm excited about this show, both because it's a project to work on and because I get the team back. I haven't been able to work with my team in a year now. We've done some webinars and stuff like that, but on the last one of these that I did, there wasn't the budget. It was just me, and I was kind of alone in a booth. So I've got Abby back on this. I've got Dalton back on this. We have a production electrician. We've got 2 follow spot operators. And in addition to that, we have we're able to bring in a bunch of the local IA hands on this as well. So we've got work for them, which is awesome. All union pit. The music is all played by them. This is going to be a really fun fun show, I think. Okay, so that's great. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I'm sure that I have missed something here, but we've gotten pretty darn close. I'm going to turn off my frame edges again. And I don't really love the way that this all looks down here. But you know what? I'm going to call it good for what it is, I believe. And I like, that little bit of white space is nice because I can drop stuff in. I can write, with a pen and paper later if I want to. The next thing I'm going to look at real quick is doing a box around this stuff, a little black box, and see if I like that or not. Maybe a thin, here we go, 0.75 points. And you know what? I think I do like a box on this, so this will be the last thing I do before I sign off with all of you. I got to look back through some of these comments. I'm sure I've missed some of you. It's that one. And, I could group this in with a thing, but what I'm going to do, what I'm going to do for now is I'm just going to option drag. Let me try that again. I'm going to option drag. There we go. And I'm just going to keep doing that over and over. And because all of these kind of fit within our spacing, that's not what I wanted, Mike. That'll be good there. While I'm finishing this up, if you do have any questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat. Like I said, I do want to wrap up pretty soon because I smell dinner downstairs and I am very hungry. But I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. And then, of course, if something pops up, if you're watching this a year from now, 2 years from now, and you have a question, please feel free to throw it in the comments on the video, and I will try to get to it. Or you can always reach out to me on Instagram. That's where I'm most active. I'm at MikeWoodLD on Instagram, which you can see down there on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. And pretty much all, that's where I put most of the content I create and stuff like that is all on Instagram. As I'm going through this, if you are, if this is your first time watching any of my stuff, welcome. Like I said, I have a whole bunch of stuff on my channel, both from pandemic times and non-pandemic times. Now that we are hopefully in non-pandemic times again, well, we're not, but you know what I mean. Hopefully as work starts back up again, I'm going to be creating more stuff, more videos actually on show sites, stuff like that. I do a lot of Instagram lives, all that kind of stuff. But my most recent thing that I've been doing a lot of is how-to videos on FileMaker for stage lighting. So you can find those on my channel page here. And in those, I think we're up to like 20-some videos now. Some of you, I've recognized your names, have been with me all since last summer when I started doing it. That basically, if you watch those videos, it will take you step by step through how to create your very own paperwork program in FileMaker. There's also a chapter in there that goes over how to create a contract database program, which is pretty cool. And we actually just last week finished up doing photo capture, where you can automate focus photos in EOS, where you can connect a tethered camera and then have your program go through and snap all of your photos, similar to like Moving Light Assistant and stuff like that. Okay, so that is that. I don't like this ugliness down here in the bottom right. But I will fix that up when I'm not streaming for all of you. The only other thing I guess that's left to show, and I'm going to clean this up a little bit too, is how to export this. So I'm going to save the InDesign document. To export it, it is as simple as going to File, Export, or doing Command E. And then I'm going to export this as a PDF. You can set some options and stuff there if you want. Then if I come over here to that folder, where is it? Let's hang on. Working folder. Magic Sheet, and we look at it. There we go. There's a pretty good looking PDF of that Magic Sheet. And once you PDF it, you'll find stuff that you like, stuff that you don't like. I'm definitely going to rearrange some of this stuff, and I will post the final version on my Instagram in a couple of days. And then when I get on site next week, or actually this Friday, when I get on site to to do the show, I will post some videos of that too. So again, any other questions, please throw them out in the comments. Otherwise, I will see you all next time. Thank you so much for watching, and stay safe out there.